Trust is the foundation of love, but when it crumbles, the fallout is devastating. Today's story follows a man who faced betrayal's sting and found a way to rise from the ashes of a broken heart. My name is Tyler, 27, living in Denver, Colorado. I'm a fitness trainer, the guy who's always pushing people to lift heavier, run faster, be better. 3 years ago, I thought I had it all figured out, not just my career, but my life. I was living with Emma, my girlfriend, my partner in every sense. We'd been together since we were 24, meeting at the gym where we both worked. She was a trainer too, with this infectious energy that made clients adore her. We were that couple of sweating through workouts together, meal prepping on Sundays, dreaming about a future with a house, maybe kids, the whole deal. Denver's mountains were our backdrop, and the gym was our kingdom. Life felt good, like I was on the right path. Emma and I were inseparable. We'd spot each other on deadlifts, laugh over protein shake recipes, and collapse on the couch after long days, binge watching shows or planning our next hike. She had this way of making everything brighter, her laugh, her drive. The way she'd challenge me to keep up with her. We moved in together after a year, renting a small apartment near the gym. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. I'd wake up to her humming in the kitchen, blending smoothies, and I'd think, this is it. This is what people chase. I wasn't just in love. I trusted her completely. That's what made what happened so brutal. It started with little things, stuff I didn't notice at first. Emma was spending more time on her phone, smiling at texts she didn't share. She'd get calls and step outside to take them, saying it was just a client. I didn't think much of it. Trainers get close to clients. It's part of the job. But then she started coming home later, claiming extra sessions or meetings. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd be vague, brushing it off with a quick, fine. Before changing the subject, I chalked it up to her being busy. The gym was booming, and we were both hustling. But there was this nagging feeling, like a splinter I couldn't see but could feel every time I moved. Then came the necklace. One morning, I noticed it around her neck, a delicate silver chain with a small, sparkling pendant. It looked expensive, way beyond what we could afford on our trainers' salaries. "Where'd you get that?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. She touched it, smiled, and said, "Oh, it's from my mom. She sent it last week." Something about her voice was off, too quick, too rehearsed. I nodded, but my gut twisted. Her mom wasn't the type to send random gifts, especially not something that screamed money. Emma's family was solid but not flashy. I let it go, not wanting to seem paranoid, but that moment stuck with me. A week later, I saw the truth. I was grabbing her phone to check the weather. Mine was charging, and a text popped up from a contact named client_Mark. It was a photo of the same necklace with a message. "Looks perfect on you. Dinner tonight?" My heart stopped. I scrolled up, my hand shaking, and saw months of texts, flirty ones, late-night ones that made it clear this wasn't just a client-trainer thing. Mark was some rich guy, a new client she'd been training for a few months. He'd been showering her with gifts, dinners, clothes. Now this necklace. She'd been lying to my face, wearing his gift while sleeping in our bed. The betrayal hit like a punch I didn't see coming. I wasn't just hurt. I was humiliated. I'd been busting my ass, building a life with her, while she was sneaking around with some guy who thought he could buy her. The lie about the necklace burned worse than the cheating itself. It was so blatant, so careless. I sat there, staring at her phone, feeling like the biggest idiot in Denver. How had I missed this? Was I too trusting? Too blind? I didn't confront her right away. I needed a plan, something to make her feel the weight of what she'd done. That's when I started thinking about revenge, not just for me, but for the life we'd built, the one she'd thrown away. Sitting on our couch, Emma's phone still in my hand, I felt the world tilt. The text from client_Mark burned into my brain. Every flirty word, every promise of dinner, every lie she'd fed me while wearing that damn necklace. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone across the room, but I just sat there, numb. My chest was tight, like I couldn't get enough air. 3 years of my life, of us, felt like a joke. I kept thinking about all the times I'd bragged about her to my buddies, how she was my ride or die, how we were building something real. Now I was the idiot who didn't see her sneaking off with some rich client. I put her phone back exactly where it was, like nothing had happened. She was still at the gym, probably with him, laughing at how easy it was to fool me. I couldn't confront her yet. If I did, she'd spin it. Tears, excuses. Maybe even turn it on me for invading her privacy. No, I needed to be smart. I needed proof, something she couldn't deny. And I needed to protect myself. That's when I started planning, not just to expose her, but to make sure she felt the same kind of humiliation I was drowning in. The next few days were hell. I had to act normal, like I didn't know she was cheating. I'd smile when she came home, ask about her day, even kiss her goodnight while my stomach churned. Every time she touched that necklace, I wanted to rip it off her neck. I started gathering evidence, quietly. I took screenshots of the text when she was in the shower, saved them to a hidden folder on my laptop. I noticed other things too: receipts in her gym bag for dinners I never ate, a new perfume I didn't buy her, a gym schedule that didn't add up. Mark was everywhere, like a ghost haunting our life. I couldn't sleep. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment I missed. Was she ever mine? Or was I just convenient until someone with deeper pockets came along? The gym, our gym, felt tainted now. It was where we met, where we built our dreams. But it was also where she met him. I started noticing Mark there, a tall guy, maybe 40, with a flashy watch and a smug grin. He'd linger after her sessions, talking too close. While I was across the room training my own clients, I wanted to walk over and deck him. But that would have been too easy. He didn't deserve my fists. He deserved to lose what he thought he'd won. Work was my escape. I'd pour everything into my clients, pushing them harder, like I could sweat out the pain. But it followed me. My buddy Jake, another trainer, noticed I was off. "You good, Ty?" he asked one day, spotting me on a bench press. I just nodded, grunting through the reps. I couldn't tell him. Not yet. The gym was a small world, and word spreads fast. If I was going to take Emma down, it had to be on my terms, not through gossip. I started digging into Mark too. A quick Google search told me he was some finance bro, owned a couple of condos downtown, divorced with a kid he barely saw. He was the kind of guy who thought money could buy anything, including my girlfriend. That made it worse. She wasn't just cheating. She was trading up, or so she thought. I wondered what she saw in him. Was it the gifts? The attention? Or was I just not enough? Those thoughts ate at me, but they also fueled me. I wasn't going to let them win. By the end of the week, I had enough evidence to bury her: screenshots, receipts, even a photo I snapped of them laughing together outside the gym, his hand on her back. But I still didn't know how to use it. Part of me wanted to just walk away, let her have her shiny new life. But the other part, the louder part, wanted her to hurt like I did. I started thinking about the gym, our community. It was everything to her, her clients, her reputation, her identity. If I could take that away, she'd feel what I felt: exposed, alone, betrayed. I didn't have a plan yet, but I knew it had to be subtle, something that would hit her where it hurt most. For now, I kept playing the part of the clueless boyfriend, biding my time, letting the anger simmer. The days dragged on, each one a test of how long I could keep up the act. I'd wake up next to Emma, her arm draped over me, and feel this mix of rage and sadness so thick I could barely breathe. She'd smile, kiss my cheek, and go about her morning routine like nothing was wrong, while I was screaming inside. The necklace gleamed around her neck, a constant reminder of her lies. I'd nod along to her small talk, forcing laughs at her jokes, but every word felt like swallowing glass. I was living a lie to protect my plan, and it was eating me alive. I started mapping out how to hit her where it hurt. The gym was her world. Her clients worshipped her. Her Instagram was full of transformation posts, and she thrived on being the star trainer. If I could take that away, it'd be worse than any shouting match. But I had to be careful. The gym was my world too, and I couldn't burn it down just to get to her. I needed something precise, something that would expose her without making me look like the bad guy. I spent hours thinking it through, lying awake at night while she slept, oblivious, next to me. My first step was to confirm everything. I didn't just want screenshots. I needed undeniable proof. I started paying closer attention to her schedule. She'd leave for late sessions at times that didn't match the gym's hours. One night, I followed her. I know. It sounds crazy, but I had to know. I borrowed Jake's car so she wouldn't recognize mine and tailed her to a fancy restaurant downtown. There she was, laughing with Mark at a candlelit table, his hand on hers. I snapped a photo from across the street, my hand shaking so bad I almost dropped my phone. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a performance, like she was flaunting it. Back home, I added the photo to my growing file of evidence. I also started talking to people at the gym, casually, to see what they knew. I didn't mention Emma or Mark directly, just dropped hints about professional boundaries with clients. One of the other trainers, Sarah, raised an eyebrow and said, "Yeah, some people get too cozy. It's bad for business." That gave me an idea. The gym had a strict policy about trainers dating clients. It was a fireable offense if it got out. Emma was breaking that rule, and I could use it. I didn't want to go to the gym owner yet. That felt too nuclear, and I wasn't sure they'd believe me without solid proof. Instead, I started planting seeds. I'd mentioned to clients in passing how important trust was in relationships, personal or professional. I'd catch Emma's eye across the gym and smile, knowing she had no idea I was unraveling her world. It felt good, in a twisted way, to have this secret power over her. But it also hurt. Every time I saw her with a client, laughing like she used to with me, I'd flash back to our early days, her cheering me on during a tough set, us hiking in the Rockies, planning a life together. Was any of it real? I started pulling away emotionally. I stopped initiating our usual routines. No more cooking together. No more late night talks, she noticed, asking, "You okay, Ty? You seem distant." I'd shrug and say I was stressed about work, which wasn't entirely a lie, but the truth was, I was grieving, not just for our relationship, but for who I thought she was. I kept asking myself why. Was it the money? The attention? Did Mark make her feel something I couldn't? Those questions were worse than the evidence, because they made me doubt myself. By the end of that week, I had a rough plan. I'd share the evidence with a few key people, clients, and trainers who respected me, who'd spread the word without me having to say much. I'd do it quietly, letting the gym's gossip mill do the rest. Emma's reputation would take the hit, not mine. But I also knew this wasn't just about her. I had to protect myself. To come out of this stronger, I started looking at apartments quietly and poured more energy into my own clients. If I was going to lose her, I wasn't going to lose myself too. The anger was still there, but it was starting to feel like fuel. The gym was buzzing as usual, weights clanging, treadmills humming, but it felt different now, like a battlefield where I was planning my next move. I've been carrying this secret for weeks, a ticking bomb of screenshots and photos that could blow up Emma's world. Every time I saw her across the gym, laughing with a client or adjusting someone's form, I felt this sick mix of love and hate. I still remembered her as the girl who'd high-fived me after a killer workout, but now she was someone else. Someone who'd chosen a rich stranger over me. I was done being the fool, though. It was time to act. I started with small moves, testing the waters. I knew the gym's gossip mill was ruthless, trainers and clients loved to talk, and reputations could crumble fast. I didn't want to come off as bitter or petty, so I had to be subtle. One day, I was chatting with a regular client, Mia, who'd always been friendly with both me and Emma. While we were stretching, I casually mentioned how I'd heard about trainers getting too close to clients, breaking gym rules. It's such a betrayal of trust, you know? I said, keeping my tone neutral. Mia nodded, her eyes narrowing. "Yeah, that's unprofessional. You hear about that happening here." I shrugged, saying I'd just heard rumors, but it planted the seed. I could see her mind working, wondering who it might be. I did the same with a couple other clients and one of the older trainers, Greg, who'd been at the gym forever. Greg was old school, all about ethics and keeping things above board. I mentioned the gym's policy on client-trainer relationships, saying I was worried it could hurt the gym's vibe. He grunted, agreeing it was a problem, and I knew he'd keep an eye out. I wasn't naming names yet, but I was building a web, one that Emma would get caught in soon enough. At home, things were getting harder to fake. Emma was starting to sense something was off. One night, she cornered me in the kitchen, her arms crossed. "Tyler, what's going on? You're barely talking to me." Her voice was sharp, but there was worry in her eyes, like she knew the ground was shifting. I wanted to scream about Mark, about the necklace, about every lie, but I held it in, just stressed. I said, stirring my coffee, "Work's been intense." She didn't buy it, but she didn't push either. Maybe she was too busy with her own secrets to dig into mine. I'd found a new apartment by then, a small studio a few miles from the gym. I hadn't signed the lease yet, but it was a lifeline, a way out. I started packing small things, stuff she wouldn't notice missing. old books, a spare gym bag, some clothes. Every item I tucked away felt like a step toward freedom, but it also hurt. This was our home, our life, and I was dismantling it piece by piece. I kept thinking about the night we moved in, how we laughed carrying boxes, how she'd kissed me in the empty living room, promising we'd make it our own. Now I was planning to leave her behind. The evidence pile was growing too. I'd saved more texts, caught a few emails on her laptop when she left it open. Mark was bold, sending her messages about weekend getaways, calling her babe. It made my skin crawl. I also overheard a client mention seeing Emma at a bar with some older guy the week before. Word was spreading, even without me pushing too hard. The gym was a small world, and people were starting to talk. I knew it wouldn't be long before someone connected the dots. I decided the next step was to share the proof, but not all at once. I started with Sarah, the trainer who'd hinted at cozy relationships. I pulled her aside one evening, saying I needed advice. I showed her a single screenshot. Just one of Mark's flirty texts, with his name blurred out. What would you do if you found out a trainer was doing this? I asked. Her jaw dropped, and she shook her head. That's messed up, Ty. If it's true, they're done here. I nodded, acting torn, but inside I was buzzing. The web was tightening, and Emma didn't even know she was caught. The gym felt like a pressure cooker now, every glance and whisper loaded with meaning. I'd been dropping hints, planting seeds, and the buzz was starting to build. People were side-eyeing Emma, though she didn't seem to notice yet. She was still strutting around, high-fiving clients, acting like the queen of the gym. But I could see the cracks forming. Clients who used to book her sessions were asking for other trainers, and Sarah was giving her these long, knowing looks. I'd set the stage, and now it was time to turn up the heat. I'd been wrestling with how far to take this. Part of me wanted to go full scorched earth, print out every text and plaster them on the gym's bulletin board, but that wasn't me. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, not just be humiliated for sport. So I decided to share more evidence, but strategically, I picked Mia, the client I'd first hinted to, because she was close with a lot of the gym's regulars. One afternoon, while we were cooling down after a session, I acted like I was confiding in her. Mia, I'm dealing with something heavy, I said, keeping my voice low. I found out someone's been breaking the gym's rules, messing around with a client. I've got proof, but I don't know what to do. Her eyes widened, and she leaned in. Who is it? Ty. I shook my head, saying I wasn't ready to name names, but I showed her a screenshot, one of Emma's texts to Mark, with just enough detail to make it clear it was a trainer and a client, but no names. This is bad, she whispered. If this gets out, they're screwed. I nodded, acting torn, but inside I was calculating. Mia was a talker. She'd spread the word without me having to do much more. Sure enough, by the next day, I overheard two clients whispering about some trainer crossing lines. The web was closing in. At home, things were unraveling faster. Emma was on edge, snapping at me over little things, like leaving dishes in the sink or forgetting to grab groceries. You're so checked out, Tyler, she yelled one night, slamming a cabinet door. I just stared at her, wondering how she had the nerve to act like I was the problem. I wanted to throw it all in her face. The texts, the necklace, the dinners with Mark, but I held back. My plan was working, and confronting her now would ruin it. Instead, I said, maybe we're both stressed. Let's just cool off. She stormed out to clear her head, and I knew she was probably meeting him. I signed the lease for the studio apartment that week. It was a relief, knowing I had a place to go when this all blew up. I started moving more of my stuff, bit by bit. While Emma was out, it was surreal. Packing up my life while she was still living it with me, oblivious. I'd find myself staring at old photos of us, hiking in Boulder, celebrating her birthday at our favorite dive bar, and feel this ache in my chest. I wasn't just losing her. I was losing who I thought we were, but every time I saw that necklace, the anger came roaring back, pushing me to keep going. At the gym, the rumors were picking up steam. Greg, the veteran trainer, pulled me aside one day. Heard some talk about a trainer getting too close to a client, he said, his voice gruff. You know anything about that? I played it cool, saying I'd heard the same but didn't want to spread gossip. He nodded. But I could tell he was on alert. The gym owner, Lisa, was starting to notice too. She'd been asking trainers about client complaints, saying she wanted to keep things professional. I knew it was only a matter of time before someone dropped Emma's name. I added one more piece to the puzzle. I printed a single screenshot, just one, anonymous, no names, and left it in the break room, tucked under some papers. It was a text from Mark, talking about meeting Emma after her shift. I knew someone would find it. And they did. By the end of the day, Sarah was whispering to another trainer, and the look on her face told me she'd seen it. Emma was still clueless, but her world was about to come crashing down, and I was the one holding the match. The gym was a powder keg now, and I'd lit the fuse. The screenshot I left in the break room did its job. By the next morning, the whispers were louder, and Emma's name was in the mix. I overheard two clients near the water fountain, one saying, "I heard it's Emma. She's been way too friendly with that rich guy." The other nodded, looking disappointed. I thought she was better than that. Hearing her name out there, tied to the rumors I'd seeded, felt like a twisted victory, but it also stung, like I was betraying the version of her I'd loved. I pushed that thought down. She betrayed me first. Emma was starting to notice the shift. She was quieter at the gym, less of her usual bubbly self. Clients who used to crowd her schedule were booking with me or Sarah instead. I saw her check her phone more often, her brow furrowed, like she was waiting for something. Maybe Mark was pulling back, or maybe she sensed the walls closing in. Either way, she was rattled, and I hadn't even played my full hand yet. I kept my distance, focusing on my own clients, pushing myself harder in my own workouts. The gym was my sanctuary, and I wasn't going to let her take that from me. At home, the tension was unbearable. We barely spoke now. I'd come home late, saying I had extra sessions, and she'd be on the couch, scrolling her phone, barely looking up. The necklace was still around her neck, a taunting reminder of her lies. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I asked, "You still talk to your mom about that necklace?" My voice was calm, but my heart was pounding. She froze, her fingers brushing the pendant. "Yeah, why?" she said, too quick. I just shrugged and walked away, letting her stew. I wanted her to know I knew, without saying it outright. Not yet. The gym owner, Lisa, called a staff meeting that week. She didn't say much, just reminded us about professional conduct and how the gym's reputation depended on trust. Her eyes lingered on Emma, who was staring at the floor. I could tell Lisa had heard the rumors. Greg, the veteran trainer, was watching Emma too, his face hard. After the meeting, Sarah pulled me aside. "It's her, isn't it?" she whispered. I didn't confirm or deny, just said, "I'm staying out of it." But Sarah wasn't stupid. She'd seen the screenshot, heard the talk, and put it together. The truth was spreading like wildfire, and I didn't have to say another word. I moved the last of my essentials to the new apartment that weekend. It was just a few boxes, but it felt like shedding a skin. I left our place while Emma was out, probably with Mark, walking into the empty studio, with its bare walls and single window. I felt a strange mix of freedom and loneliness. This was my fresh start, but it came at a cost. I sat on the floor, surrounded by boxes, and let myself feel it. The grief, the anger, the betrayal. I thought about calling my brother, Nate, to talk it out, but I didn't. This was my fight, and I was seeing it through. Back at the gym, the final blow came faster than I expected. One of Emma's top clients, a woman named Claire who'd been with her for years, confronted her during a session. I was across the room, but I could hear Claire's voice, sharp and loud. "Is it true you're messing around with a client? I trusted you, Emma." Emma's face went pale, and she stammered, trying to laugh it off. Claire wasn't having it. She walked out, canceling her session on the spot. Other clients nearby were staring, and the gym went quiet for a moment. I kept my head down, pretending to adjust a weight rack, but inside I was electric. It was happening. Emma cornered me in the break room later, her eyes wild. "Tyler, what's going on? Why are people saying this crap about me?" She was shaking, but there was anger in her voice, like I was the one who'd done something wrong. I looked at her, calm as I could manage, and said, "Maybe you should ask Mark." Her face crumpled, and for a second, I thought she'd confess, but she just turned and walked out. The truth was out, and there was no going back now. Emma's confrontation in the break room was the last real conversation we had. After I mentioned Mark, she stormed out, and I knew the dam had broken. The gym was a different place now. Her name was Poison, and she couldn't walk through without eyes following her. Clients were dropping her left and right, booking with other trainers or just ghosting her entirely. I heard from Sarah that Emma's Instagram, once a shrine to her fitness brand, was getting hit with vague comments like "lost respect" for you or "hope it was worth it." She stopped posting, which was huge for her. That was her lifeline, her identity, and it was crumbling. I moved out officially that week. I waited until she was at the gym, then grabbed the last of my stuff. My weights, my blender, the framed photo of us at Red Rocks I couldn't bring myself to trash. I left my key on the counter with a note. "I'm done. Good luck." Short, cold, final. When I closed the door, it felt like cutting a cord. I drove to my new studio, the city lights blurring through the windshield, and let myself cry for the first time since I found those texts. Not just for her, but for me. For the guy who thought he'd found his forever, only to get played. At the gym, things kept spiraling for Emma. Lisa, the owner, called her into the office a few days later. I wasn't there, but Greg filled me in. Lisa had heard enough. Clients complaining, the screenshot floating around, whispers about Mark. Emma tried to deny it, saying it was a misunderstanding, but Lisa wasn't buying it. The gym's policy was clear: no romantic relationships with clients. Emma wasn't fired outright, but she was put on a probation that everyone knew was a death sentence. Her hours got cut, and she was stuck training newbies who didn't know her reputation. It was a slow bleed, worse than a clean cut. I kept my head down, focusing on my own work. My client list was growing. Some of Emma's old clients even switched to me, saying they respected how I handled things professionally. I didn't tell them I'd orchestrated it all. I just nodded, kept training, kept building. But every time I saw Emma slinking through the gym with her head down, I felt this pang. Not guilt, exactly, but something close. I'd wanted her to hurt, and she was, but it didn't feel as good as I thought it would. It was like winning a fight, but still limping away. Mark disappeared too. I heard from a client that he'd stopped coming to the gym, probably spooked by the drama. I wondered if Emma was still seeing him, if he'd dumped her once the shiny new toy lost its polish. Part of me hoped he had, just to twist the knife. But another part didn't care. He was a symptom, not the cause. Emma had made her choices, and now she was living with them. I started thinking about what came next for me. I was 27, single, with a new apartment and a fire in my gut I hadn't felt in years. I'd been pouring my energy into the gym, but I wanted more. Late at night, scrolling through fitness forums, I got an idea. Start my own business, not a gym, but a mobile training service. Personalized workouts, nutrition plans, the whole deal. Denver was full of people who'd pay for that, and I had the skills. I started sketching out a plan, saving every extra dollar, researching permits. It felt good to have a goal, something to pull me out of the wreckage of my old life. Emma and I barely crossed paths now. She'd switched to early morning shifts, probably to avoid me and the gossip. When we did see each other, it was like passing a stranger. No words, just a quick glance, then away. I wondered what she was thinking. If she hated me, if she regretted it, if she even cared. But I stopped asking myself those questions after a while. They didn't matter. I'd gotten my revenge, and it had worked. Her reputation was shot. Her career was on life support. But the hole in my chest was still there, and I knew I had to fill it with something more than just getting even. My new life was taking shape, and I could feel the weight of Emma's betrayal lifting, bit by bit. The studio apartment was sparse, but it was mine, a clean slate where her lies couldn't follow. The gym, once our shared kingdom, was now my proving ground. I'd poured everything into my clients, my workouts, and my dream of peak pulse, the mobile training business I was building. But Emma's shadow still lingered, and I knew the story wasn't over until I faced the full fallout of what I'd done. Her downfall was complete by then. The gym's gossip mill had done its work. Clients dropped her, trainers whispered, and Lisa, the owner, had slashed her hours. I heard she'd quit a few weeks later, moving to a small studio across town. Scraping by with a few low-paying clients, her Instagram, once a fitness empire, was a ghost town. Her brand shattered. I'd planned it all. The screenshots, the rumors, the anonymous printout in the break room. It was surgical, and it worked. She'd lost the gym, her reputation, everything that made her shine. I'd wanted her to feel the humiliation I felt when I saw those texts from Mark. the necklace she lied about, and she did. But the victory wasn't as sweet as I'd imagined. Mark was gone too. I heard he stopped showing up at the gym, probably spooked by the drama or bored with Emma once her star faded. I didn't care about him. He was a symptom, not the disease. Emma's choices were hers, and she'd paid for them. But every now and then, I'd catch myself wondering if she regretted it, if she missed us, if any of it had been real. Those thoughts were like splinters, sharp and stubborn, but I was learning to live with them. Peak Pulse was my lifeline. I bought a used van, kitted out with weights and bands, and started training clients across Denver parks, backyards, wherever they wanted. My first client was Mia, who'd helped spread the rumors about Emma. She didn't bring it up, just said she trusted me to get her results, and that trust fueled me. I built a website, designed a logo, and posted flyers in coffee shops. Every new client felt like a brick in a new foundation, one Emma couldn't touch. My brother, Nate, was hyped, calling me to brainstorm names, and my old friends were back in my life, filling the gaps Emma left. I was laughing again, planning again, living again. But the scars were there. I'd lie awake some nights, replaying it all, the necklace, the texts, the moment I said, "Ask Mark," in the break room. Had I gone too far? Could I have just left? Let her live her lie? No. I decided she betrayed me, lied to my face, worn his gift like a trophy. She deserved her consequences. But revenge didn't fill the hole in my chest. It was a spark, a push to fight back. But the real healing came from the work, building Peak Pulse, reconnecting with friends, finding a Tyler who didn't need her to feel whole. I saw Emma one last time, months later, at a coffee shop. She was alone, no necklace, looking worn. Our eyes met, and I braced for words. But she just grabbed her coffee and left. I felt nothing, no anger, no triumph, just quiet closure. She was my past, and I was done carrying her. The moral of it all? Revenge tastes sweet, but it's a fleeting high. It doesn't heal the heart scars. Those fade with time, with sweat, with choosing yourself. I'm still choosing me every day, and that's enough.